Hello and welcome back to pattern making with Let Morris. We're just going to be continuing next stage of this dress that we've been making. We're now going to be going on to the sleeve, and once again we start off with your blocks, and we're going to get the sleeve block, and I've got it here on my paper. That's your sleeve block. All we do is we mark around that, because you never cut up your block. Transfer all your detailed grain lines, your balance mark for the back and the front onto your new sheet of paper, which I've done, and I've already pre-marked it and cut out so I can put my block away. And once I can put my block away, I can carry on. So now this is it marked out on a new sheet of paper, and what I've done is I've created the tucks, the lines for where I want the tucks to be, and I've created the style line for my sleeve, which has got the line going up, and I've got the line going across so that I can create my tucks in there. So this is what I've done. I've marked out, put my grain line, balance lines, grain line, because I've got one section, two section, three sections, so I can call that one section, two section, and this is going to be my third section. So at the end of it I need 3 pieces of pattern to create that sleeve. So first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to transfer this section here. I'm just going to shade it in actually so that you can see. I'm going to transfer this section onto a sheet of paper. You can see it here. And I'm going to transfer this section also and another sheet of paper, because that's one section, number 3 section, I'm calling that. And I'm going to transfer this section here onto another sheet of paper. So this is the section that I'm going to create the tucks on, and I've already did my shaping of how I want it to the style line to be. I've already marked it on here, if you can see it. So I'm taking it from the underarm, or not the underarm, in the armhole at the front, like that, and I've shaped it, and I've come back into my center of my sleeve, and I've gone straight across down, because what I wanted to do, I wanted to go up into it like a little point and back down. So I've created those style lines. So whatever you're doing and you've got your design on your paper, or you're looking at a picture, you just got to create the same thing on your blocks. So that's what I want. So I've also decided where I want the tucks to be, and I'm just going to mark this out a bit deeper. So once I've got the style line on, I'm going to decide on how many tucks that I want in my sleeve. So I'm going to put 1, 2, 3, 4 tucks in that section there. So I've from there to there, and I've gone up about, it depends on you, 2 inches, 1.5 inches from that point where I want the first one to be, and I put a mark. And then I want them to space out, so I want them to be evenly spaced out, my tucks. So whatever you decide, whether 1.5 inches, 1 inch, 2 inches, you've got to measure from that first one that amount, and that's what I've done. But I've made it evenly spaced. So if I want 1.5 inches, I'm measuring 1.5 inches. If I want 1.25 inches, each one of these spaces has got to be that amount, so they're evenly spaced out. And then once I've got that and I've put the mark in, I need to make sure that they come over to this side of my sleeve towards the back. I want the tucks to go to nothing at the back. So what I've done is, from that point here where I've started the line, my design line, to this first mark, I've extended the line like that with my ruler. That's where I want it to start. I've extended it out. So from that point there to this point, I measure it, and I'm going to divide it up into 1 sec 2 3. So I'm going to have divide it into 3 sections. Okay, so once I've done that, I measure around, and whatever I get, I'm going to put a mark, and I put a mark, and I put a mark, and then I extend a line out from each point where I want the pleat to start out to there, like that, after I've divided it up. Can you see that? I'll do it this way so you can see. So from that top one, I draw the line across, then the next one along, the next one along. So I've got now 1 2 3 4 lines. So I'm going to now trace off this section here, which I've already done. So I'm just going to show you, because you never cut up your blocks. You've got everything, you draw everything onto your block. So if anything happens, you go away, you have to come back, you know exactly where you're at. So this is the piece that I've traced off, which was in here like this. I'll just lay that back in there so you can see. So I've traced it off and I've cut it out. So there we are. So we're going to work on that piece first. So I can put my block away for a while. So now that I've got that in there, I'm going to see if I've got any spare paper that I can use. I think I've got some over there. I'm going to lay that on top, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut along there to a little bit. I'm not going to cut it all the way through. And this is called slash, and I'm going to spread to open out to get my pleat. So if you notice that I've kept my grain line on there, which was parallel, I'm going to show you, always put your grain line on so that you know where you are. So I've made my grain line on there. It's parallel to the center of my sleeve, which is my grain line. So that's the grain line there, and I've marked it on already. I've also done it on that side, so when I come to do that side, I know where my grain line is. So now I've got piece of paper. I'm going to slash. Now this notch here is going to be the center of my sleeve, so I'm just going to keep a little mark there. So I'm going to slash from there up to these points here. So like this with my scissors on those lines that I've drawn, I'm going to cut along there. And in the meanwhile, I'm going to decide how much I want the tuck to be, how deep I want the tuck to be. And once you've decided that, that's the amount you have to open these pieces that we're slashing on. Okay, so we slash right up, not all the way along so it comes away, but we slash it enough so that we can get it can be opened, so we have enough room to open out. Right, so once I've got that, I'm going to open this out. I'm going to lay that, I'm going to draw a line on my paper so I can put that line on it so I know where I am. So I'm going to put that grain line on there like that, and I'm going to secure it on my paper, whether with a sellotape or a pin, whatever you use for securing your pattern onto your new sheet of paper. So I'm going to secure that onto there like that with a bit of prick stick. Then I've already decided how much I want my tucks to be, right? So I'm going to open each one of these 1.5 inches. So the first one, I'm going to start from this section here. From that point, I'm going to mark it like that, and I'm going to mark from there all the way around back up to the first line that I've got there slashed, and I'll put my little balance mark to show me that is the back. So once I've got that, I've marked that, and I'm going to open that out till it comes to 1.5 inches, because that's the amount I want to put in each space that I've got. So I've got 1 2 3 4 space. So I'm going to measure out 1.5 inches along there, and that's the amount I want to put in. So I measure out, and I'm going to put a mark, and then like that you secure that onto your paper. Once again, I'm going to put a little bit of prick stick on there so that secures that. So you can have your hands moving about. So once you've got that, so you've got your 1.5 inches in there, and then you mark along there and a little bit along there, and then you measure the same amount again on that section. You do your 1.5 inches if that's what you're going to put in there, and then you mark it. And then I'm going to secure that bit as well that I have onto there, like that. Hope you can see that. Hope you're seeing that. So you can see I've got in that section there, I'm just going to shade it in, and I've got in that section there the same amount. You're doing it evenly. So once you've got that, you do the other one the same. You open out 1.5 inches. It depends on you. You can make it a bit more as well if you want. If you want them very full. And I'm going to do the same thing there. And I'm going to secure it. So once you've got that, you do it with a bit of sellotape. And you secure it. Like that. Onto there. That piece has come off, but not to worry, you can hold it. Right, so once you've got that down. So can you see? So what I've done is I've got 1.5 inches in the space, and in that space there, I've just shaded it in. And then I'm going to secure that down like that. And hold it so it's down. So can you see what's happened? The pattern's going round. So with this next one, you do the same. The last one, I'm going to measure out 1.5 inches, and I'm going to stick in on there. Some of the prick stick has caught that one. So 1.5 inches, I'm just going to put a mark so that I know, and then bring that back to the edge there, and that's my 1.5 inches. And then I'm going to secure that down with a bit of prick stick as well, so that you can see what's going on there. Right, so we stick that onto there like that, and then that comes back. It touches that section there, because we don't want to open this, the head of the sleeve. We just want to do it that way. So once that's in place, we know that we've got them evenly put out. So once we've got that, the shape is looking like that. Can you see that? So we've opened it out there, and we've opened it out here. So I've just shaded it in so that you can see. So it's all in these position here. So I'm just going to finish that, and now I'm going to continue to mark around. This is the head of the sleeve, all the way around till I come back to the underarm here. So you get a nice line. Don't worry about it. We'll shape that up with our curve. So once we've got that, and we've got the mark where we want the tucks to be. So these are now your tucks, and we're going to let them come downwards. We're going to bring them down that way. So we do an arrow to indicate so that we know where they're going. So there they are. Now that we've got that, before we add the seam allowance on or anything, we're going to cut some of that paper away so that we can fold it out. We can fold out our tucks so that, you know, we get a nice shape, nice smooth shape when we're before we cut out the whole thing. So once we've got that, I'm going to cut some of this paper away. Make sure you've left enough to do your seam allowance. I'm going to cut some of this away because we don't need all that paper. When we've got too much paper, you find it very difficult, especially if you haven't got a nice soft paper. So what I'm going to do now is, from that line here, I'm going to bring it down to this line. So like this, I'm going to fold back on that line like this. It's folded. I'm going to crease it. I'm going to bring that back, and then I'm going to secure it with a bit of sellotape or the pin or the prick stick. So I'm bringing that back to there, so it's forming my tuck. And then I'm going to do the next one the same. So I'm going to fold back from that point there, and I'm going to bring it down to that point so that they're all closing up like that. So I'm just going to stick them actually so that we can see a bit more clearer. So I'm going to stick that one. The first one seems to be all right. We're getting there. So once we've done that, then we've got to do the other two. Exactly the same principle. So you bring that down to there, which I've got. I'm going to fold back on that line there at that position to nothing. And I'm going to bring that over to that point as well, so that it's actually closing up. Don't worry about that bit there. This is where we've got to concentrate on, so we get a nice smooth run. So once we've got that, that's the other one we've closed out. We've closed out. So we're going to do the other one now. The same thing. So from that point, we're going to fold it on that line like that. And we're going to bring that over to that line like that. So it's looking like that. So we've got all our pleats that we need going downwards, and they folded like that. So once you've got that, all we have to do, that's what I like to do this, is to add my seam allowance. So I need to do 1 centimeter along there. Make sure they're folded over. All along there, nice smooth 1 centimeter like that. And I need to put that notch in here. That's my center of my sleeve, so I need to put the notch there. So once I've got that, I'm going to cut out on that line that I've done my seam when it's all folded over. So I'm going to now cut on that line all the way along my seam with my seam allowance on, round there to there, and then I can open out my pattern piece back. So now the lines that I'm getting is not a smooth run, it's going in, out, and that's because you've cut on the seam while it's folded out, while it was folded. So now I'm going to mark the notch position. So I need a notch there, I need a notch there, I need a notch there, I need one there, I need one there, I need one there, I need one and one. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 tucks in my sleeve. So now that I've got that, I can now take these pieces off because I don't need them anymore. I've just put a little mark across so that I know that's where I've got to notch these points here. Notch points, notch points, notch points, and that's my center of my sleeve. I need a notch there. So once I've got that, I can take my draft off these bits that I've got. You can number them as well. Call that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's if you have to put them back on to check anything. So once I've taken that off, I can take all these pieces off now because I don't need them. I've created the space that I want and the pleats that I want. So I can take off these pieces that I've got on here, and don't throw them away. I never throw the bits away until you're totally finished making your pattern. So I can take all these off of it, and because I've numbered them, I know exactly where they go as they go back together if I wanted to go back to my pattern piece. So now that I've got that, I can then continue to add my seam allowance on the side seam here under the arm and around the head of the sleeve. We need a centimeter. We need a centimeter around the head of the sleeves because this is the head of your sleeve here, centimeter all the way around of the head of the sleeve. And with your curve again, just give it a nice curve around into there so that you can get, and then this line now is your grain line. So it's very important that you put that on. So now this is your front. This is your front piece of pattern sleeve. So I'm just going to write on there. If I can find my black marker, which is gone with it. Okay, so this is, we're going to cut 2 of those because we have 2 sleeves. And this is your sleeve. And that's your sleeve. And then we just cut out the side around the head. You get a nice smooth line round with a curve. You used with your curve. And then all we do is we're going to notch everywhere we want a notch to be. So this is your pleat. That's 1 pleat along there. And there's another pleat here, another pleat here, another pleat here, another pleat. And then we've got the last pleat here. So if I just indicate these so that you can see, so that all these pleats are going downwards. So that's the first one. That's the second one. That's the third one. And that's the fourth one. So they're all coming down that way. So that is that section of your sleeve that we have created. And then we put the balance mark in. You can put a couple of balance marks in here to tell you that that is the back sleeve, so you don't get confused when you come to put your pattern in. And you need the head of the sleeve. We're going to put a notch at the head of the sleeve, and that is, we're going to put the notch of the head of the sleeve is just there. You should have got that in before. So the head of the sleeves is there. So we're going to put the notch in. So there's the head of the sleeves there. So that's what we're putting in there. That's the head of the sleeve. So that is the main bit of your sleeve here, which we have created, which is that one there. And we've put the pleats in there. So now we've done that bit, we're going to be doing that section now. So on another sheet of paper, we're going to trace off this section here. So we're just going to trace this section on. Remember to put your grain line on because that's very important. So we mark around from that point there, and then we go from the center there all the way around that side. And then we're going to just mark off the underarm, round the armhole, put your balance mark in to tell you that that is the front, so you don't get mixed up. And then we're going to put a grain line on there. So this is this section here, and you put your grain line on. Make sure, just double check to make sure it's all traced off. So that's where that is. Okay. So we're going to come to that point there, and then this one comes down to that point there. And then we just add your seam allowance, which is 1 centimeter around the armhole, centimeter down this section here. And it's so important that we put the balance mark in. This is 1 centimeter around here, because that's going to be stitched into there. And you just bring that down. That's going to follow down to a point there. And that one's going to follow up to that point there, which is your center. And that's your grain line. And then you have your seam, side seam. We're going to put our centimeter down the side. Connect up your line. And we're going to call this side sleeve, and we're going to cut 2 of those. And we must remember, we must put our little notches to tell us each one of these pleats have to match those little notches here that we've got on here. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going to make sure that we have them on this side of our pattern. So it makes it much more easier when we come to attach this seam to this seam here. So we know that each one of these pleats got to hit these marks, notches that we have. Each pleat that we do has to match. That one's got to match that one. That one's matching that one. That one's matching that one. And that one, let's do it, matching that one. And then the whole thing fits back into there like that. You can see that? I just put my pencil along there so they matches. And that's the head of your sleeve. And we're going to do the other piece that fits into there. Okay, so that is your pattern piece. So now what we do is cut this piece out. So that is that piece. And we just cut this section out and we put the notches in. So it's got to be remembered, we must put that notch there. Very important, because that is the center of where the bottom of the sleeve meets there. So that's important to put that notch in. So we'll just put it in at the angle like that, because that's your center. And this is your side of your sleeve, and then we put all the notches in, because they all correspond together when we come to make up the sleeve. And it makes life easier. Everything fits together. You don't have to be thinking, oh, where does that piece go? Where does it fit to? Because you know, when you make your pattern, you know exactly where everything goes. So that's going to go onto there, and then we're going to put our notches in. I'll just notch them, one there, and one there, and one there, and it fits back onto there to create the sleeve. So the next thing we're going to do is the bottom half of the sleeve. So on another sheet of paper, we're going to create the bottom half of the sleeve. So how do we do that? Once again, I like to fold a piece of paper. If you've got any spare paper, have a fold edge, and I'm going to fold the sleeve on the grain line like that, because I want both lines to be the same when I have marked them out. This line has to be the same on that side. So the best way to do it, I find, is to place that on the fold edge and then trace it off, so you know you get exactly the same line. So that's going to be right on the fold edge like that, and that's going to come to there. And then with your pencil, you just mark on the lines, mark along there, and then you connect up your lines. Put your draft away, connect up your lines like that, and connect up the shape. You can see that's going up to a point, because that's what we want. You could take that straight across if you want, but you know, for this design we're shaping it up. So the next thing we do, we're going to add a centimeter along there. So we just add the centimeter, follow the shape around, follow the shape up to there. And then on the side seam, we do a centimeter also, straight line. And on the bottom, we just do a centimeter for the sleeve. And then we just cut out the shape that we've got. Cut out that shape that we've just created along there, along that section. With your seam allowance on the bottom of the sleeve. See, I'm saying with this sleeve you could create a cuff and a puff, you know, it just depends what you want. So now that we've got that is the shape. Let me just put them all together. That's it with the tuck in. That one goes like that, and then this one sits in like that, back into there. Okay, roll round and matches back into there. So your sleeves are looking like that. So this is the bottom half of the sleeve. You put your grain line on. Grain lines on. And you then, right on there, this is your bottom sleeve. And we're going to cut 2 of those. So that is your sleeve already, like that. So you've got your tucks in there. You've got your side bits, which joins into there. And then you've got your bottom half, which goes up into a point. And that one fits to that notch. You know that bottom notch that I showed you? That center of that will be the bottom of the sleeves, or the center of the sleeve. So it'll fit in there. It's a guideline to help you when you're machining, that you know that center point goes to that notch. So notches are very important when you're creating and making your pattern. So I'll just open that out. So that is your sleeve pattern. You've got your tucks in there. They're all going downwards. You've got your notches to correspond with your each pleat, each tuck that you created. You've got the notches for the back and one for the front. And then that is the bottom half of the sleeve. So that is your sleeve for that design. And we've come to the end of it. So that is how we create the design. This is the design, and this is how we create the pattern. So you've got your sleeve, you've got your front. You got your front. Let's see if we can lay them out. Don't know if we can see them. That's the front section. That's your sleeve along there. That's your back. And that's your side. Your side fronts. Can bring that down a bit. That's your side front. And then that's your facings here. You can get your facings in there and your facings, and that completes your pattern pieces for your design. Looks like that. That's it. That's your pattern pieces that we have created for that design. So I hope you will enjoy watching and will be able to create this pattern. And the beauty of it is this wonderful sleeve. You can see the sleeve. I did make one of the sleeve and I posted it up. It's on the